Michelle, we got a lot of this in the State of the Union last week, a lot of signals of what exactly the president was going to be asking for. But at the end of the day, that's what this is. This is an ask, and he knows that. We've described it as aspirational. So what exactly is he trying to signal with this pretty lengthy document?
It's an ask. It's a letter to Santa, as one of my longtime Congress editors used to say. Or if you're the White House, they say it's a statement of values. So they are repeating, as you say, a number of themes that they got to in the State of the Union. They want to speak to what they're saying is a middle class, a strong middle class. You know, you hear all the time about building up the middle class from the ground up and the middle out, building up the economy as such. And so they talk about a lot of ways in which they'll provide more relief for higher costs. They talk about housing costs, trying to provide this new tax credit there, child care, which has been on their domestic wish list for a very long time, subsidy there, and then also talking about bringing down drug costs in other ways, trying to do more negotiations with drug companies, give another cap, a wide-ranging cap on drug costs there. So different ways that they're trying to bring Americans' costs down, and then saying that they're going to pay for all of this through new taxes on corporations and on the wealthy, including a billionaire tax that would raise as much as $500 million over 10 years, they're saying. So they get out a lot of these values in this budget, but as you say, very unlikely to come back to the president's desk for a signature.
God knows they've tried on those tax hikes. They've not worked so far, so therefore the promise of a lower deficit becomes difficult to make good on here. Gregory, this comes with a $30 million ad buy. I say this, the budget coinciding with a road show that follows the State of the Union. How much of this, I keep hearing aspirational statement of values. What was it, a letter to Santa?
Letter to
I like
Santa,
that.
Yeah.
How much of this is a campaign statement versus a presidential one?
Yeah, the final budget before an election is always a political document, as was the State of the Union speech. Sure. A very political speech, probably about as political as you can get away with in that venue. And of course, this is going to be dead on arrival, especially in the House of Representatives. Remember, we haven't even passed last year's budget yet completely. We haven't finished that cycle, and we're already starting the next cycle. But for the Biden White House, it certainly sets a statement of values, a statement on priorities, and it's going to be, they are going to integrate this official White House message with the campaign message to talk about how the president has delivered on some of these things. One of the biggest frustrations from the Biden campaign is that some of the economic numbers are starting to look better, but that's not being reflected in the public opinion polls. And so they understand they have to aggressively get out there and talk about their issues and talk about what the president's already done and what he would do in a second term.
Well, and he has been getting out there. He was in Georgia over the weekend. He's in New Hampshire today. He'll be visiting some other swing states in the coming days. But there is a primary in Georgia tomorrow on both the Republican and Democratic side. We know who likely is going to be the winners. Can it teach us anything, though? And Trump could almost secure the nomination at that point, right?
Absolutely. So there are 4 states up tomorrow, Georgia, Mississippi, Washington, and Hawaii. The way they stack up, it might be the wee hours of the morning when we hear from Hawaii before we know that former President Trump has officially clinched the nomination. What we're learning really isn't anything from any one of these states, but just that, look, this is going to be the earliest, the second earliest actually in history that we have both candidates clinching the nomination. President Biden is likely going to almost certainly going to clinch tomorrow as well. And these are also like 2 candidates that have been central figures in American politics, American life, dating back half a century. These are 2 very well-known candidates. They've been campaigning for a long time. This is going to be the longest general election campaign. It already feels that way. But objectively, it's going to be the longest campaign in history.
He's, of course, bringing the issue of Israel with him. It's one that certainly the president cannot avoid at this point. He's been dealing with progressive outrage over this and said over the weekend in an interview that he would draw a red line on Israel invading Rafah. We are now 1 day into Ramadan. Are you surprised we're drawing red lines following his former boss's experience with that in Syria? It's
been a gradual escalation, really. I mean, he was asked about a red line, and it did kind of send off flares for those of us who remember what that sort of terminology did under the Obama administration. I think the White House is understandably trying not to use that terminology, doesn't like that terminology, but there is no secret, and they've kind of acknowledged this as well, is that there is kind of an escalation in terms of the Biden-Bibi relationship right now. There is, certainly some love lost in a long time, as they say, 50-year relationship there. A lot of heat taken on both sides.